Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Protection Project. I am your host, Frank George. Today, we ask the questions, do illegal aliens pose a threat to the United States of America? And our guest is going to be Michael Valcq. He is a former Green Beret, been in Afghanistan a couple of times. He's a combat Green Beret. And he's been also to South America, Central America, and such. And so I will be asking him this question because it is of great concern to me. Now, he's in Florida. I am in Wyoming, and I can see the picture that's developing all over the United States. I have no trust of our government, no trust of our state or federal government, to be very specific, because there's nothing going on to protect the people of the United States. We are being scammed right out of our own country. We're seeing it unfold before our eyes. But I wanted to ask the question of someone who has experience in foreign lands and even combat as to what it is that we're looking at with the threat of illegal immigration and so many young men of fighting age coming to the United States. And with that, let's proceed with former Green Beret, Michael Valcq. Michael, thank you for agreeing to do this interview for me. And the question is, in your mind, as you live in Florida, do illegal aliens pose a threat to the USA?
Well, Frank, it's good to talk to you again. And unequivocally, I would just say yes. And these are some of the reasons why. And I'll paint a picture of what I see here in the panhandle of Florida. Now, this area, for people that don't know, has always been considered staunchly red and very conservative. And for the most part, this area of Florida usually goes towards the Republicans. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but that's just kind of the political landscape of the area here. Now, since the Biden administration took a hold of their stewardship. I never like to use the word presidency, but it was a stewardship, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The amount of illegals that have been dropped in this area has changed the landscape dramatically. I've been here 14 years, and the area I live now, I've been there about 3. And there's a small town, maybe about 3,000 people, that's not too far from where I live. And just going to Walmart reminds me of what it was like going to Walmart in Ilopango, El Salvador, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that happened over the course of the last 3 years. There's just been this massive dump of people here. And you see it in walking to the store, but I also see it on construction crews. I see it on residential construction crews, commercial construction crews, men or groups or teams working on cell towers. Everywhere I look in this area now, it is vastly changed. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that different cultures mixing is bad. It's not. It's very good. But as somebody who's worked in Central and South America, I know that the people that are coming here are, for the most part, migrants or illegals, is what I would call them. And here in Florida, we've also just passed a measure that states essentially we have to have voting machines in every single county. Mm. Now, I don't trust these voting machines.
I don't either
whatsoever. And there's been some rumblings from people on the left and mostly these talking heads in the mainstream media saying that Florida could be in play. And that worries me because, like I said, the amount of people that have been brought here, mm-hmm. and for those who aren't familiar with, what's been given to these people that would not be given to regular Americans, they've been given debit cards, they've been given cell phones, in some cases they've been given voter registration cards and Social Security cards. And this is happening in places like the Darien Gap in Panama. They're getting these as soon as they
Michael,
hit the ground.
let me interrupt you
go
for
ahead.
a second, and I have to ask you the question. To me, this is treason because this is our own government doing to us. It's a president administration. You have Kamala Harris and Tim Walz running for president and vice president of the United States, and they are enablers of all of this as far as my investigations show. Is this treason or is this not treason, what they've done?
I do think it is treason. An interesting fact about the Biden cabinet is the higher ups, people like Christopher Wray, Mayorkas, even Kamala Harris. None of these people have actually taken the oath of office.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They have not. They had not physically penned their name. Like when I went in the military, I had to swear an oath, and I also had to write my name on that oath, showing allegiance to the United States, and I had no problem doing that. These people have not yet, and there are several other individuals in very high positions that have not as well. And you take that into account with everything that's going on, and I don't see any other way around it. And I have to wonder, it baffles me how our elected officials that have sworn an oath, why they do not make more noise about this. Because most people that have a little bit of experience in the military or some type of civil service, they understand that, there's more to being just an American citizen. You do have to ensure that we keep these freedoms. And like the old saying, soft times make for soft men or weak men, and weak times, make for hard times. I'm sorry, they make for hard times eventually, and hard times then make for hard men. I butchered that a little bit.
No, you did just fine.
We are in a very wealthy moment, I guess, in time where, we still, you can go to McDonald's, you can go to the movies, you can go to sporting events. So we have all these distractions, and we don't really focus on the things that keep those distractions going or keep the machine,
the freedoms,
oiled.
The freedoms that we have. I very much agree. I've got a couple of questions for you as I endeavor to make this a short interview. You've heard of the illegal alien Chinese coming in, and I've heard of some instances where in groups they are under leadership and they're practicing at a gun range. I cannot remember specifically what state, but you have heard of groups of Chinese young men of fighting age coming over?
Yes. One of the hot spots that I've read about the last 2 weeks is an influx once again of fighting age Chinese nationals coming through the San Diego sector. And to kind of push back out and look at the macro view of that, the Canadian government, our ally, our neighbors to the north, have been actively working with the Chinese military for several years now.
Yes.
And allowing them to train in an island that they pretty much own in British Columbia. And then on the southern side of the country, you have essentially Chinese military bases in the Caribbean. Now, they may be joint ventures, and this is one of the tools that the CCP uses to infiltrate these countries. They offer them, money for infrastructure.
You're right.
The ability to Peru is one example that comes to mind, where they have contracts with the Peruvian government to help them mine precious metals and other type of ore and things like that in exchange for access to the country itself. And by doing that, it is essentially like taking an IV, and you are being essentially infiltrated, a soft infiltration, I guess you could say, by the Chinese government to get their tentacles within that country, and essentially they are making what appears to be kind of a cell around the United States with their operations that they're doing in Canada, and then you look to the south, and they're all over in Central and South America.
Let me pose another question to you. I have zero doubts that the Chinese military has operatives within the United States ready for an event. I take that as fact. I think that given a particular moment and the word to go is given, they will report to locations and retrieve weaponry and wreak whatever damage they're supposed to. Do you have any such thoughts? And this is just speculation on my part.
Well, unfortunately, I think you're spot on. I just want to throw a couple numbers.
Please do.
Out really quick. Now, with what Homeland Security is giving us, for over 30 years now, we've had 12 to 20 illegals living within the United States. That's been the standard number for just about 30 years. So in the last 3.5 years under the Biden administration, those numbers have turned into about 20 to 30. So even on the low end, if you were to say that
20 to 30 million,
if we do 20 million, when we say, let's just say 10% of that, or maybe people with nefarious intent, or maybe sleeper cells, or cartels or known gangs like Agos de Twente.
Right, from Venezuela.
You're looking at about 2 million combatants, and the largest military, standing active is China with about 2.19, to put that in perspective. And for the United States, we have about 1.4 active military. So you think about what these people have been receiving. They've received cell phones, the debit cards that they can, add money to. Who's controlling these cell phones? Who's controlling these debit cards? Who's handing out, paperwork and voter registration cards and social security cards? Who's doing that for these people? And like you said, we don't have any of these cell numbers, these phones that have been given to these people. They can essentially use them like pieces on a chessboard. And whenever they need something done, they could just activate a group of them, or have them cause some problems, maybe take down a cell tower over here, or there's just the nefarious intent behind, what could happen. It baffles me. And I haven't really seen any movement by anybody in politics or even sheriffs that have really taken a stand and said, we're not allowing this in our county. We're not allowing this in our state. And it's just, more of the same, I guess.
We have been left to ourselves and are unprotected is how I look at things. I want to ask you about Aurora, Colorado, because that has stirred a hornet's nest. Of course, we know that in Colorado, Denver is a sanctuary city. I don't know if Aurora, Colorado is. I think it is not, but I'm not sure. But there are a couple of apartment buildings there in Aurora, Colorado that were taken over by a gang that you mentioned, Tren de, I forget what the rest of it is. You remember?
Tren de Aragua?
Tren de Aragua. These are gang members, and there is video of them. I see guys carrying what looks like an AK-47. Several have handguns. At one point, they're smashing on a doorknob to get into an apartment. They are extorting people, forcing them to pay rent, which is actually tribute to them. And nobody's doing anything about it, not the local police. The mayor of Aurora finally stepped forward and said, hey, look, this really is happening here. The governor, I think his name is it Polis or Pollock? What is it? Do you know? The governor.
Pollock. I'm not for sure.
Yeah, I think his name is Pollock.
I can't remember.
The first thing he did was to say that it wasn't happening. Days later, he's finally admitting it's happening because there's so much video. The citizenry is putting out video about what has been going on. and it has become undeniable. Now, part of my thought process is that these guys might be part of a Venezuelan communist paramilitary unit that has purposely been sent here and is subsidized by, as you mentioned, the nefarious elements with their own government. I don't think we have a government for the people whatsoever. Our safety is of no concern to them. Do you think that's a possibility, that these might be paramilitary units?
No doubt. I truly believe the sky's the limit right now. And because of it being, as cliche as it sounds, the most important election in our lifetime. And I think we are in the midst of something that we've never really seen before. I mean, maybe in biblical times, what comes to mind right away is a Trojan horse, and
yes.
How they infiltrated, and I see that playing out, where we had just, I think it was 2 weeks ago, or maybe the last week, where the CEO and creator of Telegram was arrested in France.
Yes.
And they're openly talking about arresting Elon Musk.
Yes.
And the point I'm trying to make is that, like those people that took video recordings and posted it as citizen journalists, we need more of that to combat this.
Indeed we do.
And we need to do more of that before they do arrest somebody like an Elon Musk, and then shut that down, so then we won't be seeing what's really happening.
We won't. And Mike, one of the things I'm looking at, that I saw a video from England where they were threatening people that had posted on Facebook, and they were talking about extraditing even American citizens that had posted. And I can see a time when our government, if we lose this election, because it will be pivotal, it will be a tremendous change, would actually work along with that and take an American citizen and extradite him, send him over to some place for practicing what we know as the First Amendment, and have them put on trial in a foreign country. I can see that happening if this keeps rolling.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they're laying the groundwork for that. And if, not to go, this is for another time, this conversation, but I would ask people to look into the Strong Cities Network developed by the UN. And it essentially is this umbrella organization that works with law enforcement agencies from around the world, trading in tactics, techniques, and procedures, but then also identifying people that, won't toe the line. And, that's why I bring up Elon Musk. And, he is somebody that is, whether you like him or not, he is pushing back against the system.
He is.
And they are trying to silence him because of it. Because if he has such a massive platform, there's over 1 billion people on X. And we are able to still get, somewhat of free, open dialogue.
Yes.
And there, I'm not saying in all cases, there are people that are still being silenced or shadow banned. But I think people just need to start reporting on anything you see. Get video out there. Show these groups of, I see them around here all the time. I see groups of 5, 10, all fighting age males, all, they kind of travel in a squad.
God dang.
And, the other thing is if it were ever, and I am not hoping for this whatsoever. I'm hoping that we can really squash this and we can turn the tide and steer the ship away from the iceberg. But if there ever comes a time when the U.S. essentially does collapse, much like the Soviet Union, the powers that be in the globalists that are out there would want to sell to the rest of the world. We need to, make sure that America doesn't fall apart. So what we could do is, we can't trust all these, especially these white Christian males.
Yeah.
We could have these illegals that are already here work for their citizenship by becoming either blue hats for the UN or law enforcement in the city.
Or in the military.
Or in the military. which they already have that program available.
Yes.
And then you'd have people that are not Americans that would be enforcing our laws. And
Yep.
that would be a perfect storm for chaos.
Absolutely. Michael, thank you for your input, and thank you for your service. I have run out of time, so I've got to go. But thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this time around. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And please go out and vote. This may be the last time that you really have a legitimate opportunity to vote. And I know some of you say, well, look, it's all fake. They're going to steal the election. Of course, they will try. They may actually steal it. But if they do, you voted, and there's a record of your vote, and some forensics can be done. And it may not turn out as it did last time in 2020, okay? So please don't give up hope. Please go out and vote. Encourage others to vote. And I'll tell you right now that this government that we have now, if it continues, it is the end of these United States. They are only here to scam us, to take our money, to use us, and to drive us into poverty and to break our will. Let us be proud Americans, and let's go vote. And if that doesn't work, well, it's up to you what you want to do. I know what I want to do. Take care. Bye-bye.